Hey, this is John Bartlett from Brentwood Growth. Hope everybody is doing well today. We've got another episode of our Sale or Scale podcast, and I'm pleased to have with me Anuj Khandelwal. Anuj, how you doing today, man?
Good, John. Thanks for having me. Excited to be able to record this with you.
Well, thank you for being here. So, where's home? You got that beautiful background there, man. It looks like
I
you're.
grew up in Houston, so Houston's still home for me, but I now live in LA and have lived in LA for about 5 years.
Well, that's great. That's great. Tell us briefly about your background and how the firm sort of came together, and what it is you guys are doing, and what it is that you're looking for.
Sure. Happy to tell you a little bit about myself and the Rooted Ventures, which is the company I founded with my family. So I grew up around a family business, John. We've owned and operated businesses for 35 plus years. My parents are first generation immigrants. And what do most first generation immigrants do? They form a business. And
Right.
so for over 40 years, we've owned businesses in the distribution space, predominantly consumer and around jewelry. That's been what kind of has been a really great business for us. I grew up around that business. Both my parents, as I mentioned, were founders there. But at an early age, I went to trade shows. My dad would take me as he met with customers. I met with suppliers. I've kind of seen it all. My brother has now taken over day-to-day operation there. And after college, I actually went into kind of more of the finance and private equity world. I started my career at Morgan Stanley doing investment banking, did that for a couple of years, and then went on to go work in private equity and investing for about 10. Most recently in Los Angeles at a large asset manager named Ares. Ares manages over $350 billion of capital. I was on the private equity team there, had a tremendous experience. Ultimately, I wanted to go back to my entrepreneurial roots. As I had conversations with my family, we felt like there was ways for us to diversify our family holdings. And so we created the Rooted Ventures, which we're a family office that's seeking to partner with really strong businesses, whether or not to take control over or to partner with entrepreneurs who need additional capital. I like to say we have a flexible mandate. We can kind of invest across different types of businesses and really work with entrepreneurs and business sellers to achieve what they need. And so that's a little bit about us.
Well, that's great, and I want to dive in more into exactly what you guys are looking for. Before I do, though, I've got to ask you, man, the name. Where did the name come from?
Sure. And so that's the explanation behind the tree behind me as well.
Yeah.
So one of growing up, I grew up in a pretty religious family. In my temple's pledge, there was a phrase: "Give more than what you take." And so there's nothing more symbolic of that than a tree. And so that's what the Rooted Ventures for us stands for. It's being a steady tree and being able to provide and care for our employees, our customers, our suppliers in a way that's truly differentiated relative to other people and other firms.
I love that. I love that. That's a great story behind the name. So let's poke a little bit more. Tell us the type of businesses that you're looking for. Tell us sectors that you're interested in. Tell us what makes a business attractive to you guys.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. I would say at a high level, we're looking for businesses in the services sector. I would say we comprise that of two areas. One would be kind of more B2B sales. And then the second big aspect we spend time on is home services. Roughly, we're looking at businesses that are anywhere between $1 to $3 million of EBITDA. The sweet spot being 1 to 2, where we can really get in and make some impactful updates day one. I would say geographically, we're looking in many markets, but Texas, just being that's where our family is from, Southern California, which is where I'm based, are our two primary markets. We have a number of secondary markets that we'll focus on for the right opportunity as well.
You talked a little bit about the size of the business, and you talked broadly about B2B or home service businesses, are there within the either of those areas, are there any sectors specifically that really are of sort of rise to the top, or these are really interesting sectors for us right now?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the ones that we're really particularly excited about on the home services side is standby home power generators. So these are the generators when there's a storm, the power gets knocked out, you're able to securely and safely power your home. So
Mhm.
that's one that we find super interesting. It has both an installation component, but a maintenance component. So there's a recurring revenue component. We're also, I would say, spending a lot of time on restoration.
Mhm.
But as we have more and more extreme weather events, there's going to be more need for restoration, whether that's fire, water, mold. And then maybe on the last, I would say we're also spending time around youth enrichment. And so a lot can fall under that, but swim schools, spending time around youth activities more broadly.
Interesting, interesting. So, um, other than the EBITDA, what are some of the other characteristics that you look for, or conversely, characteristics that maybe draw some red flags when you start to look under the hood a little bit further and drill down into the infrastructure, revenue mix, maybe client concentration,
Sure.
the tech stack, the leadership team, owner dependency? What are some of the things that you're looking for that might not be obvious on a P&L statement?
Yeah, for sure, John. I think going all the way at the top, we first start at the industry, right? Is this industry, is this niche one where we think we'll be able to make money? And, there's are there favorable tailwinds that are supporting this? So for something like restoration, as I mentioned, more extreme weather events are going to be an underlying factor for driving restoration growth.
Mhm.
Awesome. Check the mark there. Then when we start to look at businesses, I think you're exactly right. We spend time looking at the mix of, say, residential versus commercial. If we're looking at a home services business, is there customer concentration? What's the level of operational complexity and how are we solving for that operational
Mhm.
complexity? I didn't think, we spend time on the finances. What are margins look like?
Mhm.
How are they bidding jobs? What's the seller's day-to-day role? And if the seller is doing kind of everything in a business, that's really hard to take over. From
Right.
a customer concentration standpoint, if you're reliant on 5 customers for 70% of your margins,
Mhm.
and their relationship is with the seller 100% of the time, it's really hard to come in and feel comfortable buying that business and knowing that that relationship's going to transfer over to us in some way, shape, or form. And then
Mhm.
maybe the last is just we look at, as I mentioned, size or
Mhm.
relative fit. Like, does this have low hanging fruit? Like, is there a website? Is there a marketing team in
Right.
place? Like,
Right.
just what can we add in value to the
Right.
business?
Right. Great. Great. I don't want to get into valuation specifically because that's subjective and it's in the eye of the beholder. Um, Talk to me a bit about when you're thinking about valuation, as you're looking at the deal structure under the headline number. And so, once everyone's agreed, this is the number, you start
Sure.
looking at the cash component. Could there be a note component? Could there be an earnout component? Could there be rollover equity component? How are you thinking about structuring the deal under what the broad number is?
Of course, I would say we like some structure. That is our preferred path. The reason behind that is incentive alignment. I don't know what I don't know about your business. And having some form of a seller note, whether that's forgivable or non forgivable, or
Mhm.
even just equity rollover, which is typically my preferred path,
Mhm.
that allows for incentive alignment. Both of us can be successful. It allows you to take a small second bite at the apple if it's equity rollover, but it
Mhm.
just allows for accountability. The biggest aspect to me is as we enter into a new business, there's just so much nuance around it. And I want to be able to pick up the phone and be able to have a great conversation with the seller. I think my biggest red flag is when a seller says, "Oh, yeah, I'll be available to you at any time. Just give me a call," but then
Mhm.
says, "I want 100% of my cash at close." Those
Right,
two things don't align for me.
right, right. Got it, got it. Okay, you find a business that you like. It ticks all the boxes. You guys agree to the headline number. You agree to the deal structure in terms of the various components. An LOI is accepted at that point.
Sure.
What is the from a seller's perspective? What does the process look like from there?
Yeah, I would say from a seller's perspective, it depends, right? We totally understand that a seller is busy running their day to day business, and this isn't the only thing that they can achieve. But I would say the seller is a big driver of how long it takes to close.
Right,
Um, for me as a business buyer, I can move as fast as you want, right? If you send me a bunch of information, I can chew that up in a couple of weeks and have
right,
outputs and questions and things like that.
right.
And so I would say typically the sales process for a business somewhere between $5 to $15 million of total purchase price is a 60 to 90 day close, probably actually 60 to 120 days, 90 day being like the sweet spot.
Hmm.
Um, typically for us, the first 10 to 15 days are really what I like to call a sprint. I would love to get with you in person now that we're through the negotiation phase of an LOI, really get into the weeds of business. That'll start all the way down from tell me about how you market the business, show me all your financials. And let's just have detailed conversations about how you're selling and doing what you do. And so that allows us to get more. Assuming all of that checks out, everything is great, we will personally start then spending money on third party diligence. So, what does
Hmm.
third party diligence look like for us? That means an accounting provider, perhaps to do a quality of earnings. I think it's just good internal hygiene to bring in a third party accountant to take a look at the books.
Hmm.
We've found really, really great people who know and understand the size business. I think we will then also spend time around legal diligence with our lawyers.
Hmm.
We'll look at insurance and HR and benefits. That's usually more check the box and confirmatory.
Hmm.
And then all while doing that, we're also going to start working on legal documentation.
Hmm.
And throughout that process, plus raising any debt docs, that takes about as I mentioned, 60 to 120 days to close. I like to see things on the faster side of things, but
Hmm.
again, fully acknowledge that it can take a little bit of time for a salesperson or a business owner
Of
to
course,
put all of this information together.
of course. So businesses revenue between 5 and 15 million, they're going to have an employee base, including those in the office, the leadership team, those that are out in the field. It's going to be anywhere from 15 to 60, let's call it. At what point um, at what point do you want to begin meeting with different members of the leadership team and the employee base at large? And at what point is it your sort of best practice as to when everything is announced to the company at large?
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, I understand how sensitive this is for business sellers. My
Hmm.
tip to them is that should be like, the last few steps
Hmm.
of the deal process. For me, if there's a key one or two employees, the
Hmm.
seller feels really comfortable with us meeting and has include them in on the sale. I
Hmm.
would love to meet them as early as possible because they're a big piece of
Right,
that.
right.
And so that could be as early as, our 2 week sprint or just throughout the diligence process. But
Hmm.
for the broader employee base, I would say we don't necessarily need to meet them until after the deal is actually closed or on the precipice of
Got,
closing.
got it.
The most important meeting for us is obviously the day after close,
Right.
when we do our kind of general meeting. And then I think we, not too dissimilar from other buyers, would take the time to meet with every single employee and get to know them and
Sure,
hear
sure,
what ideas they have for the business.
sure, sure. What's going to change after the deal is closed and the owner stays involved? The owner might stay involved for a year, might stay involved for a couple of years, might stay involved for potentially, I guess, 5 to 7 years, depending upon what the relationship is and what the deal structure is. Um, what's going to change from the owner's perspective? Prior to this, they started the business or they bought the business and they've been doing their own thing for a number of years. And now all of a sudden they've got a minority partner or they've got a majority owner. And so in terms of their day to day, what's going to change in their life?
Yeah, I would say I'm going to break that up into two pieces, right? I'm actually going to start with what won't change.
Okay.
What in our approach, what's not going to change is the way we treat people. There's a reason we're interested in your buying your business. So culturally, we want to be able to preserve a really great culture that you built, the
Mm-hmm.
way your employees are treated, and
Mm-hmm.
then most importantly, the service that we offer to our customers.
Mm-hmm.
I like all too often we see the mistake of a new buyer coming in and trying to change things drastically and redo it. That's just not who we are as people. Now, for the seller, I think the one thing I would say, the biggest thing they may change is energy. I like to think you're bringing in a new set of eyes, a
Mm-hmm.
new bit of energy and life into the business that oftentimes, if it was somebody who's near retirement, that they didn't necessarily want to take a look at or didn't have the time.
Right.
And so that's where the biggest change will be. We want owners to be able to perhaps step out of their business
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily work in their business. We want them to be able to work on their business. And
Right.
that's where the most value will be. And so trying to work with them to figure out and alleviate what is the stuff you don't want to be able to do anymore and take off your plate. And then where can we find the most opportunity to best utilize your skills?
That's great. I could certainly see where it would give an owner a chance to sort of hit the reset button and redefine what their roles and responsibilities are in the business and, um, be able to focus on the things that they feel like that they enjoy the most and the things they feel like that they bring the most value. um, Having a partner like you guys from the owner's perspective, other than the ability to hit the reset button and the ability to pull some chips off the table, so to speak, what are the biggest sort of value adds that a group like yours is going to bring to that owner in terms of his ability to run the business, maybe to make better decisions in the business and to grow the business properly?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a lot of different levers there. My biggest thing is, we have 40 plus years of operational experience. We've
Right,
seen it all. And
right,
then in addition, you have my private equity experience of professionalizing businesses.
right,
And so I think no deal is the same, but if I were to tell you, like, we would go ahead and spend time on marketing, like in branding.
right,
We've done that a lot at our family businesses. We would do the same. Um, where's our website at? What digital marketing are we doing? What can we bring to that side of the equation? We obviously know you have really great customer relationships. Are there any new and creative ideas that we can lend on how we go to market and how we sell? All too often, I don't think people map what the customer experience for their
right,
product is like. And I love that. And I would love to be able to do that with you of, are we doing everything to make this as good of an experience for our customer base as it can be? And then lastly, I oftentimes spend time with sellers saying, what do you not like about your business?
right,
And inherently, it's the finance aspect.
right,
Well, you're talking to somebody who has 12 years of financial experience. I understand accounting really well. I understand finances really well. And so, how can I build and grow that function so that you don't have to worry about that?
right.
And then the last is I frequently like to also spend time around where can we grow via M&A, and is that a plan of action? Do we want to spend more time on organic growth as well?
As you talk to owners that are thinking about a transition in a transaction like this, what's the biggest hesitancy you think an owner has in pulling the trigger and moving ahead with a process like this? And when you think of what that hesitancy is, what words of advice and counsel would you give that owner to help him sort of process through why this makes sense based upon where he and his family is in life at that point in time?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. I would say one of the biggest points of feedback that we get often is my books aren't in a place
Right,
to be able to sell, or I'm 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years away from selling.
right,
I think the biggest counsel, John, I would offer is if you're considering selling, it's actually probably the right time to sell as opposed to 2 to 3 years from now. There is an aspect of being able to run your books appropriately,
right,
get the ready, but there's also ways as a buyer to solve that through EBITDA at backs,
right. You can
things
clear
like
that.
that to account for personal expenses. But if you're in a place where you're questioning whether or not you have enough gas in the tank, or you're getting to a point where you're ready to sell, I think that's probably like if you're already thinking that, like you're ready to sell today. And
And
so
and and when they say they're maybe 1 to 2 years away, are they saying are are they saying the value of the business is not there, or are they saying the business is not ready to go to market, or are they saying they're not personally ready to sort of turn the page and move to the next chapter of their life?
I think it's a
Or-
little bit of the latter too. So
Okay,
one is like the business isn't ready necessarily at this point. They Either the sellers are way too involved in day-to-day operations and they know they are.
yeah,
The books aren't necessarily clean. That's a big piece. And then, sometimes we do run in the page where the seller isn't necessarily ready to part with their business. I actually
right,
think that's easiest to solve. Like when you meet us and you get to know us as people and how we'll treat your people and your customers, I think that's a little bit alleviated and easy to
yeah.
understand. There's always the fear
That's,
of the unknown, but hopefully I can help solve that piece of that for you.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Any concluding words of wisdom that you would maybe suggest to an owner that's thinking about putting their toe in the water and sort of exploring a potential transition like this?
Yeah, I would say find ways to make yourself redundant in your business. The
Hmm.
businesses that sell for the highest price have probably the least owner involvement because they've built out a team, a manager, smart and operational people to surround themselves with. So that's definitely one. My second is talk to people like John. The
Right.
number of bad brokers we see that aren't advising their clients in an appropriate way is way too high at this end of the market. There's a lot of cowboys out there who don't understand how to think about valuation or how to think about deals. I think John's team is really, really well situated in that. And no, there was no compensation for that
No,
sales pitch.
I appreciate that.
Um, and then I would tell you to spend a little bit of time thinking about, who I would want to use for legal
Right.
counsel,
Right.
um, talking to your accountant and talking to any, say, like wealth managers or anything like that to get yourself appropriately ready for the next phase.
Great. 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 Well, listen, man, those are all great ideas and suggestions, and it's been a really good conversation. If someone wants to reach out to you directly and to talk about their business or talk about the market or talk about a process, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to email me at any time. My email is my first name, Anuj, Anuj. And our email is anuj at rooted, ROOTED, ventures.com.
We'll be sure and put all those details in the show notes as well. Well, Listen, Anuj, thank you so much for your time. This has been very insightful, and I'm sure our crowd learned a lot by hearing your comments. Thanks so much, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Talk soon.